Welcome to the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions, now in its 25th season. Our panel features a longtime Penn State media and NitWits tag team, Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of Lions 24/7 with Fight on State. Between them, they've covered Penn State for more than 80 years. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ's Anderly Penwell, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntington. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Remax Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we're a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, the power of physical therapy. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
Welcome to Nittany Nation Overtime.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Nittany Nation Overtime. I'm your host, Anderly Penwell. Back and better than ever is Mark Brennan, joined by Neil Riddell, and this week our special guest is Tom Bradley. So guys, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So
We've been trying to get Tommy for a long time. He's been a great friend, a long time, great coach at Penn State. He's had a tremendous career. Appreciate you fitting us into
He's only saying that because he's from Johnstown.
into your media schedule. That's right.
Two
guys
now that
from
he's a
Johnstown.
TV star.
Yeah, right.
Well, of course, Penn State, huge win on the road yesterday, 41-12. A lot to break down. Where should we get right into it? Mark, you were at the game, right?
Yeah, I was there, and listen, I can't say that I expected Penn State to win by 29 points or whatever it was, but to me, that was about as balanced an effort as they've had offensively and defensively and special teams, all three things being complementary in a couple of years against a good opponent on the road, obviously. The offense, I just loved. Everybody's going to talk about Singleton. Everybody's going to talk about Katron Allen. To me, the offensive line finally stepped up and played well. Now, you may say that the backs are making it a little bit easier for that line, but listen, all they can go out and do their job, and I really love the way they played. And defensively, finally starting to create those turnovers. That's what we heard about Manny Diaz. That was his focus, and they finally got home in a big game.
Yeah, and I mean, their use of the tight ends, too, the way they're implementing them into the short yardage and the commitment to the run. I mean, Brenton Strange is having a tremendous year already, and they're also getting, they got Theo Johnson back, Tyler Warren. It just was a really complete effort, really one of the best games we've seen out of a James Franklin team, going back to maybe 2016.
Tom, what stood out to you about the balance? I mean, it was basically almost 50-50 in terms of the split on
Let's
offense.
start off after being around these guys forever. I actually agree with them for a change.
Wow.
And they agree too,
Oh,
which
no.
is-
Over all these years, finally, I agree with what they're
He's
saying.
on the other side now.
Yeah, no, but I agree with
Now
you
you
guys.
know.
Now I know what what I'm saying, but I'm agreeing with you. I can't believe it. I'm going to write that down as something really special today. But I thought the thing that impressed me is, and I was really impressed, was the offensive line play. They get that thing going with their offensive line. They can throw the ball. They got the skill people. Those backs get going. That is, to me, is going to be really, that's a big 245 yards on the ground against Auburn. 245 against anybody's a heck of a day.
Especially an SEC team. What about Singleton? I mean, 2 back-to-back 100-yard games, and he's now leading the NCAA. He's had 5 runs of 40 or more yards, which is the first leading the NCAA, which, I mean, as a freshman, what can we expect? I mean, I think that's obviously a good sign, but what about him here? We're going to see him going off for one here.
Here's what I loved. I loved the patience of Mike Yurcich, and going back to what Tom was saying, I could never be a coach because if I had this kind of talent, I would give him 30 carries in the first half and he'd be wiped out. But if you look, he carried twice on the first series, and then he had 2 carries in the second quarter. He had, I think, 10 yards rushing at halftime. And then they pop him in there in the second half. That Auburn defense is a little tired. That Penn State offensive line has some confidence, and boom, he can take it to the house. That's what's been missing from this offense since Journey Brown is somebody who could take it to a house. But the fact that Yurcich was that patient, again, Tommy, I could never be a coach because I'd give that guy the ball 30 times.
But you'll find that great backs are like that. It's 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, and then there's 50 down the pipe, and that's what he can do.
Yeah.
You're not going to catch him. And you see how the angles change real quick when he's in there. You see how many DBs when they come, they take bad angles on him all the time, and he's strong too. And you have to tackle him.
That speed, I think, is crazy. And
the last one that he busted was up the middle. The other 4, going back to last week, had been around the right edge. So they're doing a great job blocking. But I was encouraged to see that he was able to get something going right up the middle.
Also, Katron Allen looked pretty good. What did you guys think was, I mean, when you have those 2 backs, Tom, walk us through what's Yurcich thinking through and trying to balance that?
Well, I think Coach Yurcich is just going to try to keep them both. He wants to keep them fresh, and he's done a great job of that. You know, I think he wants to keep. He probably has a carry somewhere like, hey, we're going to have so many carries, and I want to keep it under that for right now. They're just, they're young freshmen. I'm not saying they can't carry that. The lug it 20 times a game, but maybe he wants to keep it around 10, 12, 13, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I love the job that Katron Allen does down there at the goal line. He just has a natural feel for finding those spaces, and that's something I don't know that you can coach. I mean, he's quick, he's powerful, but to just kind of work your way through there. I mean, he put his one leg down and made a cut that I'm not sure some of the other backs on the team would have made that he scored on. And we're showing Sean Clifford here. I thought one of the key plays in this game was early on when he got his bell rung by the linebacker and the whole stadium went nuts and Clifford popped up as if nothing happened. It's like, okay, I just got punched in the face. Now let's see what else you have.
It was amazing he didn't miss a play. I mean, to me, that was the hardest hit that I had ever seen on a Penn State quarterback. Now, granted, he's upright and he does run. And I think he was dazed,
a little bit
but
over
he stayed
himself.
in there. I was stunned that they made the next call a quarterback sneak. I just was. I mean, because this guy was wobbled at that point.
You and Twitter on that one. And Clifford, also this game, he's now second all-time in passing yards behind Hackenberg with this one. We're part of the way in, and we didn't even get to his performance.
Hackenberg didn't play 15 years, but he...
Well, they all get the asterisks now if they're the redshirt senior COVID infinity year. What about the performance? He's played great against Auburn both games. Do you think it's the SEC? Do you think it's the coaching staff? Do you think it's the play calling that makes him so good against Auburn?
Well, I think he was healthy in both games. I mean, if you look back to last year, after that Iowa game, he either was banged up or they were afraid to run him because they were afraid of what they had as a backup. I mean, we saw it. I mean, God bless Roberson and, good kid, but he just wasn't prepared. So I think they had to be really careful. Now I think there's a greater confidence level in the backup QBs that they can afford to do what you said, Neil, and go ahead and have him sneak the ball right after getting his bell rung.
Well, I think he's the leader of the team, and that's pretty unquestioned. And he's really shown his toughness. And I think the team really fed off that. Does he have the arm even that Aller may have? Possibly not. Plus, he's been around a long time and familiarity. But I got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, he's made one mistake this year so far, and he atoned for that by bringing them back in the last minute and a half. So he's having a great year.
You guys are such offensive guys. I actually like the hit by the guy on the quarterback. But, and I'm surprised they didn't call a penalty, to tell you the truth. I really was shocked that because, they take care of those offensive guys.
Well, that's the way it goes.
Well, no, it shouldn't be that way.
Daniel said he thought it was a clean hit. Now, he's been doing SEC games for 100 years, and Penn State isn't usually on CBS, but I'm just saying, he thought it was a clean hit.
All right, well, when we come back, what does this win mean big picture for the Nittany Lions? Don't go anywhere. You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntingdon. And by McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Well, back here on Nittany Nation Overtime, let's take a look at some of the scores around the Big Ten. Ohio State obliterates Toledo 77-21. Michigan State falling on the road at UW. Michigan, number 4, absolutely blows out UConn 59-0. Post Scott Frost era, Oklahoma beats Nebraska 49-14. Southern Illinois upsetting Northwestern, and Syracuse and Purdue. That was quite the game, but Syracuse pulls out on top of this one. So around the Big Ten, of course, but this game, Auburn Penn State, of course, going down to the SEC. Anytime you can beat the SEC because of what the SEC means to college football, it's a big thing. What does this win mean for the Nittany Lions down the road in terms of bowls, in terms of, mentality?
Well, I think it
confidence?
puts them in a position to be 5-0 going to Michigan if they can now hold serve. They had 2 challenging road games to start this season, Purdue and Auburn, and I'm not sure that many people expected them to win both. And I think that they built some confidence at Purdue. I mean, this is the best win in the Big Ten so far this year, and I think that they're riding high right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's anybody else, and I haven't been able to dig into it, that has 2 road wins over Power 5 conference teams at this point. I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff 3 weeks into the season. But listen, I think we knew when the season started that however these first 3 games played out, if they got through it at 2-1 or 3-0, it's all going to boil down to that mid-October gauntlet with Michigan, Minnesota, and Ohio State. With all due respect, and I know Tom as a former coach can't look ahead maybe the way that we do, but with all due respect to the upcoming opponents, listen, that's what that series is all about. I think what you take out of the first 3 games is that Penn State is going to be even more well prepared, having played the schedule it played, than had it played 3 cupcakes to open the season.
And the great thing is they want to make sure they go into that healthy, and if they can stay healthy, and this week hopefully they get a chance to rest their guys a little bit, because you got to be healthy in that stretch, and so far they've done that.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah, and they've built a lot of depth on really both sides of the ball. I think it's really been impressive. That's one of the things that Diaz, and it was a point of emphasis that James was talking about before the season started. Hey, don't worry about the shutout if you can get some backups in there to get some. They're getting a lot of good contributions, particularly on defense.
And speaking of defense, that was such a great, I thought, dominant win. Manny's obsessed with the turnovers. He got 4 of those. Tom, what part of the defensive performance stuck out yesterday to you?
I thought that was a really good team effort. I thought Manny called a really good game. He gave a lot of bogus pressures coming off the edge. It looks like there's more coming than there is. He baited him into some different things. But I thought it was really a good team effort. I thought they tackled well. There was not a lot of big plays. That's the one thing that always will beat is big plays. If you can limit the big plays down and get a couple turnovers, which they did, then that bodes well for their team moving forward.
In those tough road environments like the SEC, like the Michigans and Ohio States of the Big Ten, what is it, the young guys, is there any chance that they maybe fall into getting caught up in the moment, don't finish those tackles, don't hit necessarily as hard, drop interceptions? Is that something that coaches have to prepare for ahead of time?
I don't think you really talk about that. You talk about the positive things. But when you go on the road and you do make some big plays, all of a sudden that crowd gets real quiet. There's a lot of people in the parking lot. A lot more people leave the parking lot. So I think if you can continue that going, and you're right, the great thing is the schedule coming up. Yeah, we talked about the 3 games. But I'll tell you what, there's some fun places to play, and the Big House is certainly one of them.
Well, the question that I had for Tom is, they have some defensive backs. They're able to do some things in nickel and dime where they can bring Tig Brown up to the line of scrimmage in blitzing, and having smaller guys who are that comfortable in traffic like that. How unique is that, and how dangerous are those players when they're able to go into those?
Well, it's one thing to rush them, but to know what you do when you get there, because some guys don't know what to do when they get there. They stop, or they take the wrong path to the quarterback, or they take a bad angle. So obviously they're doing a good job working on what those guys coming off the edge and telling them what to do, and developing some type of a pass rush move. You got to have something when you get there. It just can't be, oh, here, I'm here, now what do I do?
Right.
So they've got to have a thought process ahead of time. Okay, this happened. Now what do I do next?
Well, they had 6 sacks. The thing that impressed me is, they hadn't caught the ball well in the first couple games on defense, and they not only came up with 2 interceptions, but both of them were great catches, Brown and Wheatley. And I think that bodes well that, they were solving some of the problems that had surfaced in the first game.
All right, well, when we come back, more conversations about the Nittany Lions, including arguably one of the most important factors, the fact that Penn State fans traveled. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
The NitWits are being brought to you by RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry. The answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage. No matter what type of weather, we're a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. And by Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Of course, we're talking about Penn State's 41-12 win over Auburn. They were ranked 22nd, and now they're up to 14 in this one. Big Ten victorious over the SEC. But a very important factor of this one, of course, is the fans. Penn State fans traveled down to Auburn for this one. You can get some of the video here. Auburn had the orange out. Penn State's going to meet everyone in their color out. But there was a lot of white at this game, and then they stayed late. So, Mark, you were there. How loud was it for Penn State?
Yeah, it was impressive, especially toward the end of the game when a lot of the people in orange had cleared out. But it's a relatively easy trip for Penn State fans that you can fly from a lot of the northern hubs into Atlanta, and then it's an hour-and-a-half drive over. So there are actually places in the Big Ten that are more difficult to get to. The fans down there for Auburn, tremendous. I mean, a lot like Alabama, just really nice people, great interactions. But to see the Penn State fans stick around for that celebration at the end, after the difficulty that this team went through last year, and I think a lot of fans were understandably disappointed with the way it kind of played out, it was pretty cool to see everybody rally around these guys after a big win.
I was going to, Tommy, since your coaching career, you're a bit of a trivia question.
Okay.
And who has coached at Penn State, the Steelers, in West Virginia? And I think you were, at one point, you were reported to be the head coach at Pitt. That didn't quite happen, but the career you've had and what you're doing now, you're doing some media stuff. I know you have a show with Jay on Penn State that's gotten you back into, Penn State football and the Steelers. Tell us what you're doing.
I actually do some Steelers stuff. I have some radio with the Steelers, and then I do a show called Nittany Game Week with Jay Paterno, and I do that every week. Covers just strictly Penn State. It's a half-hour show, much like this. And then on Thursday, we do a radio show that combines Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia, sprinkle in some Ohio State and Notre Dame. It's an Irish show. It's a radio show that we do down on Fox in Pittsburgh.
What part of college football do you think's changed the most in the last couple of years in your career?
3 letters, NIL. Changed it immensely. And I don't think it's for the better myself. There's going to be a lot of things, ramifications are going to come down from this before it's all said and done. Are they an employee? What are they? Are they going to follow employee law? There's a bunch of things that have to be worked out on this. I'm not begrudging the guys getting what they can get, but that's really changed the landscape of college football.
And in terms of, defenses, have those shifted over the past couple of years? Of course there's ebbs and flows and everything's copycat, but are there, distinct eras?
There is, but you can get as cute as you want to get, but if you're not fundamentally sound and you can't tackle, get off blocks, proper angles, pursuit, and do all the little things right, once worked for a famous man that said if you take care of the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. So, you can draw up all the stuff you want, and it looks great and all that, but if you're not tackling, playing off blocks, doing the right things, angles, team, it's not going to work. Because, football is the ultimate team game. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't do anything in football by yourself. You know, it's the greatest thing about it is that you have to rely on the team. It's not like basketball or track or something. It's the ultimate team game. And the one thing I did learn that the best player on the team is the team.
Well, Tom, one of the Neil and I both covered Tom for a bunch of years, and we liked the kid go back and forth, but he was a joy to cover. I mean, he was a lot of fun at every bowl practice.
Right
at every bowl, they would have to open up practice before the bowl games, which Joe rarely did, and Tom would always walk over to us and say, "Okay, I'm setting it at 2 minutes before everybody's thrown out." He would say that, whatever. But in all seriousness, through highs and through lows, just a great guy to cover and a class act and a credit to Penn State for all those years. Tom, really appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You guys have not been this nice to me. I'm coming back
Well,
again.
yeah.
When can I come back again?
1-0 is the interim coach in Columbus.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're nice when you could.
You
They
should have known
sometimes
him
can be.
years ago, believe me.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but come back with our picks for the upcoming Central Michigan game.
The NitWits are being brought to you by Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday.
You're watching Nittany Nation Overtime.
Here's a look at Penn State's upcoming schedule. They're playing Central Michigan this Saturday, then at home against Northwestern, hitting the road to take on Michigan, at home for the whiteout against Minnesota, then welcoming number 3 Ohio State, and then on the road to Indiana. So our Nitwit of the Week, congratulations to Mr. Neil Riddell. You now have 2, still a big fat goose egg for me and the guests. So for upcoming against Central Michigan, who do you got?
Yeah. Don't wake me up. Don't confuse me with any facts. I see the line's about 25. I can't pick Central Michigan to cover, but I think Penn State may have a slight letdown. They'll have to guard against that. I'm going to say Penn State 47, Central Michigan 18.
I have one very close that I'm going to go 45-17 in that similar-ish route there. I think coming off the big game, or off that big win at Auburn, plus the way they're able to put those points up against Ohio, I think that it's just going to keep rolling on in.
I'll go next. Central Michigan played at Oklahoma State and actually played hard into the fourth quarter, which I like. So I think they may get some points late in this one, but I think Penn State's going to put up a bunch of points. I'll put it at 54-16 Penn State.
Oh, going high. Wow.
Tom, what about you?
I'm going to go with 45-0. Manny Diaz is going to get his first shutout at Penn State this week.
Nice.
What have you thought so far about Manny in his first couple of games that we've seen at
I
Penn
think
State?
they've done really well. You know, I think as you can see, they're progressing, and he'll add to the package as they go on each week. And I'm sure there's things that they're working on that they're not showing.
Got to keep some things hidden
Yeah.
up from us, don't you? All right, and then make sure to tune into Nittany Nation Overtime. You can get this now in podcast form this year. Also, make sure to get our newsletter and this QR code on your screen right here. That'll take you to our website. You can get the newsletter, you can get the podcast, and also you can get the new Nittany Nation app to stay connected to all things Penn State and Penn State football. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Tommy, thanks for being here.
Thank you very
Great
much for
being
having
with
me.
All right, and you too. I'll see you guys at practice this week, right?
Well, you'll see one of us at practice.
All right, well, thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here next week.
The NitWits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, a firm foundation for your financial future. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, carpet cleaning, and rug cleaning. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics, providing friendly, family-focused orthodontic care in Altoona, Bedford, and Huntingdon. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By RE/MAX Results Realty Group, committed to a culture of professionalism, productivity, and exceptional service. By Dorman's Jewelry, the answer is always Dorman's. By Star Beverage, no matter what type of weather, we're a convenient drive-through one-stop beer store. By Kogan Electric, lighting the way for you. By NovaCare, Altoona and State College, we proudly support Penn State football. By Fullington Tours, offering round-trip transportation to and from Beaver Stadium from locations in State College and Altoona. By Blair Candy Company, the one-stop shop for all your tailgating needs. Candy, snacks, paper supplies, and more. By Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, your online home for Penn State football and recruiting coverage. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Monday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.